cup of coffee, sit back and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life features stories to inspire and motivate you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. Visit cyacyl.com.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Today's guest, the renowned Dr. Bernie Siegel, has touched many lives over many years. A practicing physician and pediatric surgeon, Bernie reached national and then international attention when he began talking about patient empowerment. Bernie is the author of several books on the relationship between the patient and the healing process as it manifests throughout one's life. His newest book is entitled A Book of Miracles, Inspiring True Stories of Healing, Gratitude, and Love. In May 2011, Bernie was honored by the Watkins Review as one of the top 20 spiritually influential living people on the planet. He continues to break new ground in the field of healing, supporting changes in medical education to humanize medical practice. Hi, Bernie. Thanks so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Joan.
Bernie, so long ago, you were one of the people who started talking about the connection, the important connection between mind, body, and healing. And, that wasn't a very popular way to think back then. And I'm not really sure it is today, to be honest with you. I mean, we've come a long way, but I'm not really sure that we're close to where we should be.
Yeah, we're still struggling.
Well, how important is the mind-body-spirit connection to our well-being?
Well, they are one, so to speak. That, I began to ask people what happened last year or two in your life. And I was criticized for blaming patients as to why they got sick. But what you have to understand is, if you have a loss, if you're feeling lonely, those are things that change your body chemistry. Or like fear. If you're walking in the woods, think you see a snake or a wolf, you may turn and run faster than you've ever run before or climb a tree. But if you live in fear, it becomes destructive because of the internal environment created, which depletes immune function, raises stress hormone levels. So your body is trying to stay alive, but it loses its ability to heal and grow.
Well, and isn't it when we have a particular attitude and a mindset, and as you said, it changes the chemistry, and doesn't it affect us all the way down to our genetic composition? Don't we have the ability to change genetically as well?
Yes, that the genes don't make the decisions. I always say it's like walking into a room. The light doesn't necessarily go on. But if you flip the switch, say, or a motion detector knows you're there, okay, a light will go on. But it's getting a message. And the same thing with the genes, that, when you have identical twins, they don't get sick the same week of their lives. It's what's going on in their life that can initiate a genetic change. And that, on the negative side is internalizing anger, not expressing feelings, trying to please other people, being submissive. Then you are telling your body, I don't like life. Well, Monday morning is probably the best example of all. We have more heart attacks, strokes, suicides, and illnesses on Monday morning. Now you'd say, is Monday a problem? No, but what people are thinking and feeling on Monday is the problem, and so their body responds to that. And you really have to remember that the body does not see disease as the worst outcome. It can keep you from going to work. See, I've done you a favor. Now you'll be in the hospital, and people will be taking care of you, and you don't have to work anymore. And so the body doesn't judge things the way you might say your brain does. But you have to realize, as I say, we are a unit, and one cannot separate the mind and the body and the spirit. So when you're loving life, see, and that's the part that's kept me doing this for many decades. People who are supposed to die and don't. They always have a story, and that's the crazy part of medicine. You're doing very well, and the doctor's surprised and says, whatever you're doing, keep it up. What the doctor should say is, you're doing very well. What are you doing? Tell me. I want to pass it on to other patients. So I learned that you can learn from success. There's survival behavior. But basically, as I say, they always had a story about how when you accept your mortality and start doing what makes you happy, your body gets the message. And, instead of being dead in 2 months, you may be walking around 5.5 years later.
And Bernie, I had the honor of interviewing a gentleman by the name of Swarna recently, who survived 2 end-stage cancer diagnoses. He was told literally at the second time he had weeks to live, and that was when he was 17 years old. In the decade that followed, he decided, and he survived, but not only did he survive, he decided that he was going to climb Mount Everest. And he did that. And then he went on to climb the 7 summits of the world to inspire cancer patients to have hope. So that goes back to what you're saying. And as a layperson, what I don't understand, what you're saying makes so much sense. And yet I don't get why our medical community does not jump on that. As you said, why they're not trying to find out what's going on in the whole person.
We have separated medicine. I always say it's like electrician and plumbers. You don't ask your plumber about your electric work in your house or the wiring, because they don't read those journals and they haven't studied it. And so medicine has gotten so into technology. Well, this was an ad, just so to make it very clear. I was depressed. I went to see my physician. I said, "You've got to help me." He prescribed an antidepressant. I feel better now. Now, I wrote to the New England Journal of Medicine and Sandoz Pharmaceutical Company. I said, "Look, my family is killed in a plane crash, and I'm really depressed, and the doctor doesn't even say what's going on in your life. Can you please put another ad in? Say, sit down, tell me what's happening." And they canceled the ad. But that's the absurdity of it. We're not treating people. We're treating disease. Another is that we don't look into why you became a doctor. See, most people become doctors not because of people. When you ask medical students, draw yourself working as a doctor, less than 5% of the pictures have a patient in it that they're helping. And if they do, you're touching it, with an instrument like a stethoscope. You're not really touching the patient or caring about the patient. So when you're, again, treating disease and not knowing yourself in terms of why am I a doctor, so I can deal with my issues and care for the people, then patients don't get taken care of. You see, it's what's your diagnosis, not what's going on in your life. What are you complaining about? Not how may I help you? And those are the issues that really need to get into true medical education, not what I call medical information.
Okay, so Bernie, we understand what's happening within the medical community. So what can we as patients do to ensure that we get the best treatment or the best healing for our needs?
You have to be what I call a respondent, not a patient. Be a responsible participant in your care. See, that's the survival behavior. The word patient is derived from submissive sufferer. So if you are submissive and put up with everything, you're more likely to die in a hospital from a medical error because they think you're somebody else. I was talking with somebody yesterday in the healthcare field, and it's amazing when you're in the hospital and somebody says, "Let me have 113's chart." See, that's the room number. Or let me have the colon cancer's chart. And, it's, wait a minute, there are people, that's what the chart is about, a person. So let's deal with the person. But if the person becomes a character, and I always remember this when I was in training, that the patients who drove me nuts always seemed to survive and go home. Now, they would be yelling, bellowing, calling you when they needed something, and I realized they're breathing, they're taking deep breaths. They don't get pneumonia. While the nice submissive ones are lying there quietly under the blanket, and all kinds of things would go wrong because they weren't moving. So be a responsible participant. Let them know who you are. You can decorate your room. I always say put your baby picture in your room. So when they say, "What a cute kid," say it's me. And this is something with a sense of humor but is real. If you go to the hospital, take what I call a Siegel kit, a magic marker, a noisemaker, and a water gun. You want a magic marker because if you go to the operating room, you want to write "cut here," not "this one, stupid" on the other side. You want a noisemaker so that, and again, these are not jokes. I mean, people who would be dead today if they didn't have a roommate because they pushed the call button. And a quote from so many people, then you get an hour of uninterrupted silence. They push the call button, nobody shows up. And if they didn't have a roommate, they'd be dead today. And the water gun was used by a teenager. And people respected him and what he was demonstrating, that he's dying in the hospital. He shuts his door to be alone with family, girlfriend. And if people came in when the door was closed, he would squirt them with the water gun. So they learned it was his way of expressing anger in a healthy way and letting them know he wanted to be respected and his rights too. And that gun literally became a gift to other children after he died because they saw the benefits of it and how it empowered the kids. So it was passed on to others. But you've got to express anger appropriately, say no if you don't want to do things, get help from family and friends, all these things, are survival behavior, as well as having meaning in your life and caring, in a sense, about yourself and using difficulties. That's probably one of the most important messages. Always ask yourself, what can I learn from what I'm going through? Even when you're going through hell, say, what can I learn from this? And then it helps become your teacher. I always say the way hunger makes you find nourishment, your difficulties can lead you to nourish yourself in your life. So then the trouble, the gift, you see, the curse becomes a gift and a wake-up call. And one other thing when I mention that is, if you say to people, how would you describe what you're experiencing? See, not what's your diagnosis, but what are you experiencing? And then listen to how they describe their headache or their cancer or their infection, whatever it is. The words that come out of them, like pressure, failure, confusion, all those things, draining, all those things relate to their life. And my next statement then is, let's look at what's draining you in your life and let's eliminate that. And then suddenly it's, oh, yeah. So then they start healing their life and derive physical benefits from it.
Bernie, we're going to let our listeners think about that for a moment while we take a break. This is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life now has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox. Each month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide the information that you need to inspire and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. As philosopher Francis Bacon said, knowledge is power. Use the wisdom provided in the publication and apply it to your everyday life. Visit cyacyl.com for more information or to begin your free subscription. That's cyacyl.com. Welcome back to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Our guest today is author and speaker, Dr. Bernie Siegel. Before break, we were talking to Bernie about the importance of the mind-body connection on our overall health and how we can be an advocate for our own health. Bernie, what I'd like to talk to you about now for a moment, I've read where you've said that it's very important for us to live in the present.
Right.
And what does that actually mean, to be living in the present, and what type of an impact does that have on depression and anxiety?
Well, I will quote one of our children. At age 7, he said his leg hurt. I told him to take a hot bath, and he said, I need an x-ray. I said, you're 7 years old. What do you know? You probably bumped your leg, and if you took a bath, you feel better. But we took an x-ray, and he had a bone tumor. It looked like a malignant tumor that he'd be dead of in a year. And when I came home after seeing the x-ray, I tried to explain, we have 5 children, my wife, that this wonderful child is probably going to be dead in a year, and that everybody should act appropriately depressed. The next day, he comes up to me when I'm sitting at home at my desk. Dad, yes, can I talk to you for a minute? Sure, what is it? You're handling this poorly. 7-year-old is giving his doctor father a lecture. But what he went on to say is, we want to go out and play in the yard, and you want us sitting in our room depressed. And he really made the point to me that we want to have a nice day. And I have to add, he had a rare benign tumor. We learned a week later when he had surgery. But he taught me so much that you don't know the future. You know, the future isn't about statistics. It's about, let's enjoy the day. Animals and children understand that. They're not judging themselves and their appearance and what I'm going to go through. So I know veterinarians who have been able to get through a mastectomy because, quote, I thought of all the animals I operate on, amputating jaws, legs, all parts, and they wake up and lick their owners' faces. They know they're here to love and be loved and teach us a few things. And I saw that you're going to have someone on your show who was born without arms. Mm-hmm. I was in a cafeteria, and I saw a woman come in with no arms, using her feet to pick, dishes off, put them on a tray, and then somebody carried the tray to a table. But see, what do I do then? I walk over to her table, and I asked her if I could sit and eat with her and learn from her. And I loved it when she wrote out some information for me about future contact with a pen between her toes, mm-hmm. on a piece of paper. Because I said, here, let me write down, your information. She said, give me the pen. And, she isn't hiding at home because I'm not normal, my body. She's accepting herself as whole and intact. And Helen Keller is also a wonderful teacher of this, who was blind and deaf from the time she's a child. But she didn't sit in her bedroom cursing God and the world. She graduated from college with honors and wrote many, many books. So again, and the word to me, attitude, it isn't, I got to think positive. No, I want you to find peace of mind and help to heal your life. So it doesn't become work. I got to think positively, and I wasn't thinking positively, so that's bad for me. It's not about self-judgment. How do I find what makes me happy? I always say, let your heart make up your mind. So you're following your heart. You're seeking happiness, joy, relationships, and living in the moment. It's today. I mean, I love country western. Yesterday is dead and gone. Tomorrow's out of sight. Help me make it through the night. So work on making it through the next 24 hours, and then we'll see what the future brings.
Well, and Bernie, isn't it important? I've heard you say that you should fake it till you make it, and visualization is very important.
Right.
So what does visualizing, being the person or having what it is that we want, how does that actually help us to manifest that?
You see, again, as you said, mind and body are one. If somebody pictures something, whether it's an operation or going for an interview, as a disaster, then their body expects it to be a disaster, and they react that way when they get there. But if you visualize it as being successful, I do well, I'm hired, or I wake up from surgery, I'm comfortable, hungry, and you literally ask them to draw pictures, which I do, then you see the change in the drawings. It goes from an empty room, all drawn in black, to this beautiful place surrounded by loved ones and God's light shining in the window and everything else, because you've reprogrammed your body to expect something good to happen. And that's why the visualization and the imagery make a difference. Because, again, as I say, your body doesn't know it isn't happening. It's almost like hypnosis, that you are getting it ready to have the experience. And I've seen this, see how powerful the mind is, with things like radiation, chemotherapy, where mistakes have been made, and the people did not get chemotherapy, did not have radiation because of problems with the machine that were repaired, and they didn't put it back together correctly. But the people thought they were. So they had the benefits of treatment as well as the side effect. And the doctors, therefore, didn't know they weren't treating people until they were checking things, like a routine inspection and checking everything, and they realized, oh, my God, we haven't treated anybody. But I said to them, you would have realized that if the patients didn't have any side effects or response. So obviously the patients were acting as if they had treatment. And that's when these doctors, their eyes bulge and they go, oh my God, you're right. See, that's when it impressed them, how powerful the mind was. So, doctors aren't trained to communicate. That's another sad aspect. So we can talk to you in a way that kills you, literally, or gives you hope. I always say, when you listen to the commercials on television for various drugs, if you listen to all the side effects and the thing the drug could do to you, it's like, who would ever want to take that? And that's the tendency in the hospital to tell you what the problems are, because you know why you're getting the treatment, could help you. But they don't start out by saying, this could make you well, could save your life, and then there are side effects that may happen but don't have to. But instead, you get a whole list so you don't get sued, say, of what's going to happen to you. And, then people go home and have it happen.
And, Bernie, listening to you, I think one of the most important things I hope the listeners walk away with is that there's always hope, and never, never, never allow anyone to take that from you.
Yeah, the word is potential. See, what is our potential? You talked about genes. Bacteria alter their genes and resist antibiotics. Viruses change to resist vaccines. If I cut my finger or I cut a branch off a tree, I don't bleed to death, and the tree doesn't leak sap and die. We have the healing mechanisms built into us. Our Creator did care and does care, or these things wouldn't be built into the system. The key is, how do I turn on, say, the healing mechanisms and my potential? And that's where the mind becomes a very important aspect. And bringing love into your life, relationships, laughter, all these things have been shown in studies to benefit survival. And people need to have that courage. And I'd say one more that's really vital, how you're brought up by your parents. If you're brought up and didn't feel loved, by the time you're middle-aged, almost 100% of people have had a major illness. And those who said, I felt loved, only about 25% had suffered an illness. So you've got to reparent yourself. As I say, love yourself. Put your baby pictures up and love that kid and give it what it needs. And to those who are teachers, clergy, doctors, any authority figure, politicians, love people. then they ultimately realize they're worth something and start taking care of themselves. Because, if you're teaching attitude, if I was brought up by parents who committed suicide and didn't care about me, how am I going to have an attitude? I'm going to have an attitude that says you're not worth a damn thing. But if somebody comes along and says, I love you, and persists in it, then you learn ultimately you're worth loving, and you start taking care of yourself, and you give up the smoking and the overeating and the alcoholism. And then you take as good care of yourself as you do your beloved pets. Let me finish with this story that was in Cat Fancy magazine. You have 9 cats in the house. You and your husband are smokers. 1 cat dies of lung cancer, and the others are having breathing problems. The woman wrote to the magazine and ended her letter with, Doug and I now smoke in the yard. We're not killing our cats anymore. We love our cats more than the convenience of smoking indoors. See, that's what blows my mind. It's okay to kill yourself as long as you take care of your cat. I tell people, get a pet and then be as good to yourself as you are to your beloved pet.
Today's guest is Dr. Bernie Siegel. If you'd like more information about Bernie and his work, you can visit his website, berniesiegelmd.com, or as always, you can visit our website, CYACYL.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on our site, listen to past shows as podcasts, read the digital magazine, sign up for our mailing list, and take part in our book club. Bernie, I hate to say that we are out of time. I have enjoyed talking to you. We have to get you back here. There's so much that I would love to talk to you about.
Well, I always say, I love that line. We're almost out of time. Everybody should remember we're here for a limited time and enjoy it.
Bernie, thank you so much for spending time with us today. This is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.